Okay, welcome to another edition of Weather and Climate Chat, Monday, December 5th. Did not do one last week, so first one in a couple weeks. Monsoon Mike and Dr. Michael Davis. Dr. Davis, welcome to the radio program.
Good to be back.
Yeah. Okay, so we're recording this Monday morning, December 5th. This morning we had a little coating of snow in some areas, mainly to the north and the east. That was related to a weak system. Tell us what we saw.
We had a very weak shortwave system come through, and with shortwaves, the atmosphere, you pretty much have two types of waves. You have what's known as short waves, and you have what's known as long waves. Long waves are going to be more of what you find in the jet stream with your big ridges and troughs associated with the Rossby waves and so forth. The short waves are going to be sort of embedded within these long wave undulations that you get in the jet stream, and they can essentially be more in the way of uplift or some type of atmospheric disturbance that gives energy to initiate storms at the surface.
Okay.
So in this case, we had a very weak shortwave come through, gave us a little bit of uplift. We had a little bit of moisture in place because we were close to saturation. We were getting a little bit coming in from the south, and we had a little bit in the way of dusting around here. I think there's like 1 to 2 inches up in the Poconos.
Yeah, I was going to say like north of the Lehigh Valley up into the Poconos area had a couple of inches.
But
so.
Toward you and my establishments, we're more like a dusting.
Yeah, it was more of in southern Schuylkill County where I hail from, mainly a slushy coating on the grass in the car.
There's nothing on the roads or anything like that.
Yeah, so nothing really to worry about with that. I will say, well, first of all, let's back up. Let's take everything in order here. We just finished November recently. November wound up turning out to be another very warm month.
And we were about a degree and a half to about 2 degrees above normal for November, but it really wasn't significant heat. I think some areas like Allentown, Philadelphia, that area had about, I think, the 14th or 12th warmest November. So it really wasn't dramatic heat, but it was still warm.
So, we of course, September and October were fairly dramatic with the heat. November, not as dramatic, but still warm. December, it looks like we're getting into a slightly different pattern, maybe a little more on the, dare I say, normal side.
It does look like that. We are getting more seasonable temperatures.
Right.
We might be slightly above average today.
Right.
I think we're going to be topping out in the upper 40s. I think we're about 47, 46 or so for this time of year.
I don't know what. Yeah, let me double check on that real quick. But yeah, you're right. So this week
somewhere in that vicinity.
Right. About slightly above average this week, but nothing, like I said, much more normal than it has been. All right, normal for this time of year for our area is 46. So we're going to be around 48 today. Just at or above average. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
And then we're going to have a series of low pressures coming through that can give us some rain, maybe some rain-snow mixes, maybe even some snow in some cases.
It's going to be an active pattern, let's just put it that way, where it doesn't look like we're going to get bored as weather forecasters.
Oh, no. There's always something to talk about this week with weather. I think my meteorology students would appreciate that.
Yeah,
well.
And compared to what we went through in the summer and the early fall, where there was just like weeks upon weeks of nothing to talk about.
You and I were scrambling, I think, to find topics
something to talk
about because there really wasn't much happening in the atmosphere.
So then let's break it all down. We got another storm coming tomorrow. That one looks a little more significant precipitation-wise, but shouldn't be much of a frozen precipitation issue, at least around here.
Yeah, the storm is originating in the Gulf Coast region, so it's going to be having a lot of moisture with it. But as it comes up pretty much the Ohio, Tennessee River Valley, it's going to be showing us a lot more in the way of the warm sector. So we're going to get more liquid precipitation rather than frozen precipitation. There might be some slight mixing going on, maybe around the I-80 corridor or so further north of us, but not a whole lot in the way of wintry precipitation yet with that storm.
So that's the general rule of thumb for folks that are not too akin to meteorology is when to oversimplify things. When you have a storm that goes to our west, oftentimes we're on the warm side, and you have a storm go to the east. I know that
we'll be on the cold side.
The John Bolaris, I don't know if you remember him. He was a popular meteorologist in Philadelphia a number of years ago. He used to always use the term. I don't know if you ever heard this. This would be more appropriate for people that don't like snow. To the west is best. To the east, you've got a beast. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you ever heard that.
No, I haven't heard that one, but it makes sense.
Yeah, but I would always take umbrage to that statement because to me, best is not going to the west because I want the snow.
Yeah, so I guess it depends on your outlook of
right,
what you exactly want from that storm.
Right, so this storm's going to the west, mainly going to be rain. Could be a little bit of mixing up toward the Scranton I-80 corridor, but not much of an issue around here.
That's right.
Then we march along. Models yesterday were indicating something again later this week, like around Thursday, Friday. Now it doesn't really show up as much. Maybe some snow showers.
I think the model was starting to bring that low pressure that was sitting over the Great Lakes well north into Canada now. So it's not really going to affect us as much, but we're going to get a lot in the way of wind, looks like Friday and the Saturday.
And with that wind, perhaps some of the coldest air of this young meteorological winter
Correct,
season.
Yes. We're having a big Arctic plunge coming down from Canada and so forth, bringing a lot of colder air that will be the coldest air we've seen so far this year.
I'm seeing highs. AccuWeather has Friday 38, Saturday 36, which by then puts us about 5 to 10 degrees below normal.
Yes, so we'll definitely be below normal by the end of the week.
Okay. Then we're going to have to watch, and this is going way out. We were just talking about it a little bit on the GFS. There's some indications, and being responsible forecasters like we are, we're not going to go into details, obviously, but there's indications there could be some activity of some sort.
Yes, the GFS is depicting a low-pressure system moving into our area by, what was it, Monday, I think we saw?
Late Sunday into Monday, yeah.
Monday, yeah. Looks to have pretty good cold pool behind it, a lot of moisture associated with it, so we could be in for a mixed bag of precipitation. At least that's what the GFS models are prognosticating at this point. Whether or not that happens is still somewhat up in the air. Definitely need some time to refine what we actually see.
So nothing to get concerned about, but do keep in mind, folks, that next Monday is the first day of exam week.
That is correct.
Something to watch. We'll just keep it at that.
Yes.
And you're going to want to watch our forecast in the Daily Brief and, of course, on our own personal weather pages. And I notice you've been updating more frequently now, which is good.
I try to.
Yeah.
As often as I can.
As often as you can. And I try to do it every day as well, too. So, yeah. So the long and short of it is generally a pretty active pattern for this month, it seems.
Yes. Yeah. And that kind of pretty much epitomizes what we saw with these long-term forecasts. I posted the other day graphic from National Weather Service Kansas City.
I like that.
Was showing,
like the Plinko board there.
Yeah, like pretty much they made an analogy to the game Plinko and Price is Right. The person stands on top where they have the disc or whatnot, and they drop it, and then you have to figure out where the disc is actually going to go, and then ends up in the money denominations down at the bottom for how much. But in this case, it's how much wintry precipitation you get. So you could be seeing from now like a foot of snow, but as we get closer and closer to that time, it could be very much like 0 or 1 if it completely misses you, because you need to account for all those different meteorological parameters and different scale features that will be affecting your actual forecast from day 1 when you initiate it to day X, whenever that might be.
Because the Plinko chip, when you put it at the top, if it thinks it's going to go to the right at first, it's accounting for all the things that happen underneath that. But if the thing decides to go to the left, that kind of messes up the whole flow of what was going to happen over there.
Exactly. So you can forecast where it's going to go, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go that way. And I always like to tell the students, too, that the atmosphere is a very complicated system.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be pretty much like the computer models trying to model these fluid dynamics.
Yeah.
And they can't do it.
Right.
And the analogy I have is if you take a cup of coffee and you take some cream and you want to put the creamer in, can you accurately describe how all that cream is going to mix in with the coffee? It's going to be quite difficult.
Depends on the temperature and all that
turbulence, eddies that are generated, the temperature certainly. You're going to have a lot in the way of uncertainty, so it's difficult to actually model that movement.
Another analogy that I heard, I'm not sure if you will approve of this one, but it was from another meteorologist, I forget where. He happened to like bowling, and he said that when you throw the bowling ball, you can throw the bowling ball the exact same way, but if you have a little more oil on one particular lane versus another lane, or the weight of the ball that you're throwing, all those type of factors, it could get totally different outcomes.
That's right.
Yep.
So anyone that says, I can accurately predict weather 10 days out, they're full of baloney at this point.
Okay.
And then that's when we get the AccuWeather with 90
Our
day.
little, yeah, and I didn't bring the results in, but it's done now, and
It's done. We can put that to bed.
it didn't work out too well for them. I would say that they got burned majorly by those crazy heat spells that we had, like in October.
Those large extreme changes
Yeah.
in temperature and precipitation, for example, can really screw over the entire model. So that's where you get the whole butterfly effect and chaos.
It's interesting, though, because I'm looking at their forecast for December, and temperatures are amazingly consistent throughout December. There's nothing other than that shot of cold that we have this weekend, everything looks pretty status quo, 40s, 30s. So, and they're not going anything too extreme. Christmas morning right now, they got cloudy with a high of 42. So,
we very well could have a big Arctic blast by
somewhere
the end of December.
Somewhere in there. Yeah, it looks like they're indicating something around the end of December, rain and ice, and we'll see.
We'll see exactly what happens.
And let's see what they have for January. It's always fun.
I will say one thing that's probably safe to say is that we're not going to have another 70, 80 degree Christmas
I sure hope not
this year.
I sure hope not. And January, even their forecast for January looks fairly status quo. There's really not a whole lot. It looks like and some kind of outbreak around the second week of January of cold, but nothing too crazy. So we'll see. And if this is true, this would harken back to when we said in the fall that it looks like a fairly average winter. Nothing too crazy one way or the other, but fairly average.
Yeah, there's really not much in the way of an El Nino or La Nina. We have a very slight La Nina,
right?
But it's not that strong, so it shouldn't really be affecting our weather too dramatically.
I just want to look at the latest, 6 to 10 day outlook from the Climate Prediction Center has us. Wow, that's something we haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah, that's
a lot of blue.
Yeah, a lot of blue for some colder air,
yeah.
and that makes sense, especially if we're going to be having all these series of low pressures coming.
And precipitation-wise, a little on the green side. Which
again, going along with that.
And then the 8 to 14 day, it's starting
not as bad,
not quite as blue, but still blue,
and
still in the green. Okay, and then the 1 month outlook. The 1 month they still have us leaning slightly above average, a little above average temperature wise.
So if that's the case, then I'd be somewhat interested to see what's going to happen at the end of December.
Yeah, and then the 3 month outlook for the next 3 months, equal chances of, and we got some blue to the west and some red to the north and the south. So again, looks like a fairly average, normal winter.
Yeah, there's really no giant swings in temperature that are really sticking out at this point.
Right. So, all right. So it looks like a fairly average coming weeks, but obviously everything is relative, and compared to all the warmth that we had in the winter, in the fall, this will feel a little more harsh for people.
Yeah, and I believe we're still about 6-7 inches or so below normal for the year in precipitation. So we're still trailing behind for our annual precipitation.
And we didn't even mention the rain that we had last week. That was a pretty healthy dose of rain. So that helped us.
We got quite a bit, I believe. Where I'm at, we got close to about 2 3/4, a little under 3 inches.
Yeah, I was about 2.5, I believe, where I was. So yeah, it was a healthy dose of rain, and I didn't even accidentally click on that, but there it is, the U.S. Drought Monitor.
Drought Monitor, man.
Yeah,
which goes down with all the wildfires that we've been seeing down.
Oh yeah, we should mention that. Maybe we
Southeast.
we can mention that as our topic. That's been horrible. What's happened down in Tennessee? Literally, houses, resort towns, totally demolished.
Yeah, so what happened really there is you had this drought that's happening in the southeast, and we see it pretty much sticking out on this drought monitor in Georgia and Alabama and Tennessee and so forth. And you then had that storm system that came through, and as it crossed the Appalachian Mountains, you had the winds that went over the mountains, and because they were cold, they came down very rapidly and pretty much fanned those flames. And you had, in some cases, 70, 80 mile per hour winds associated with them.
Wow.
And that's really going to move all that wildfire around. That's are
almost instantaneously, yeah.
We kind of see them out in the west, too.
Yeah.
Known as the Chinook winds.
Yeah.
Because as they come down, they're going to compress and warm adiabatically, because you can change the air temperature based on pressure instead of actually heating it. So then that's going to move all those flames around, and then you get wildfire issues resulting from that. Yeah. The other feature, too, that I don't think really got a lot of play in a lot of media outlets was that you had a lot of rain that happened after the burns.
Right.
And if you have a lot of burned areas, the vegetation is now gone.
Right.
So the water can't go into the soil. It's just going to run off, and then you can lead to some flooding in some areas.
We didn't even hear about that, but that was an issue as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So a lot of damage down there. Very tragic. What my Stormwatch Sal, Stormwatch Sal, my associate, one of his favorite resort hotels was pretty much a total loss down there.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, you had a lot of the tourism industry around Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge that took some heavy hits from these wildfires. And I believe Dolly Parton is doing some type of relief effort,
I think she's
charity
giving
work.
$1,000 a month to any families that are homeless, which is very nice of her.
Yes.
Very helpful. So go Dolly.
Yeah, go Dolly.
Yeah.
Well, then Dollywood was affected too, if I'm not mistaken. So.
Yes, and she has a good heart, so that's very good.
Yeah.
Do we this drought, is this going to be an issue for the coming months? Do you think, or will this something that should improve? Hopefully.
I think, at least I would hope that after these few series of storms systems that come through are going to bring some healthy doses of precipitation to the southeast and help to alleviate some of the drought issues. I don't know whether or not it's really going to eat into the drought.
Right.
I certainly hope it does, but I'll be optimistic and say that we'll start to get some more moisture recharge in the soils.
All right. Very good. All right. Well, let's see. Time-wise, we filled 16 minutes, so we're good. So, all right. Well, so just wrapping it up and summarizing a much more active pattern than we've grown accustomed to this fall. Well, now we're into meteorological winter, but technically still astronomical fall. Much more busy pattern and more reason that you need to follow Dr. Davis's weather forecast on Facebook and Monsoon Mike's Weather Headquarters.
That's right.
Yeah.
Follow us.
All right, so we'll see you. We'll try to. Well, let's do it this way. If it's looking like Monday is becoming more of a serious threat, maybe we should try to get together later this week to talk about
good.
that. Yeah, and if it's looking like Monday's not going to be much of a threat, we'll talk next week.
Sounds good.
All right, see you then.